She didn't play to impress. She played to help, and that decision changed everything. Why was the room suddenly quiet? No one had asked for silence. No announcement was made, yet every voice slowly faded, as if something unseen had taken control of the air. At the far end of the room, a piano waited. It had been there all morning, untouched, polished black, closed lid. Like it did not belong. Like it was placed there by mistake. People walked past it without looking. This room was not meant for music. It was meant for decisions. The walls were glass and steel. The lights were bright and cold. Long tables stretched across the room, filled with papers, laptops, and half-empty coffee cups. On one side sat the company team. On the other, the visitors. Faces serious. Eyes tired. This meeting mattered. Everyone knew it. If things went wrong today, there would be consequences. Not small ones. Big ones. Jobs. Futures. Years of effort. But something already felt off. The presentation had started strong, but slowly, the energy slipped away. Slides moped words were spoken. Numbers were explained, yet the room felt heavy, disconnected. Some people nodded without listening. Some checked their phones. Some stared at nothing. The company team could feel it. The visitors could feel it too. This was not going well. Near the side of the room stood a woman. She was not seated at the table. She was not speaking. She was not important in the way others were. She was just there. She had been asked to help with small things. Carry files. Adjust lights. Make sure water was available. Simple tasks. She stayed quiet. Watched carefully. She noticed things others didn't. She noticed the tight shoulders, the shallow breathing, the long pauses after questions. She noticed how the room felt colder with every minute. No one looked at her. That was normal. She was used to that. She didn't mind, but she felt something growing inside her. A strange pull. Not fear, not excitement. Concern. During a short break, people stood up. Chairs moved back. Low conversations started. Some visitors walked toward the windows. Some stayed seated, rubbing their temples. No one spoke about the piano. She looked at it again. It wasn't new. A few scratches on the side. The bench slightly worn. It looked like it had stories, even if no one wanted to hear them. She didn't plan anything. She didn't think ahead. Her feet moved before her mind did. Slowly, carefully, she walked toward the piano. No one stopped her. Some people noticed. A few raised their eyebrows. Others didn't care. She sat down. The bench made a soft sound. Too loud, she thought. She froze for a second. Her hands hovered above the keys. Her heart beat faster. What was she doing? This was not her place. This was not her moment. She had not been invited. She almost stood up. Then she felt the room again. The weight, the silence that felt wrong. She pressed one key. The sound was soft, warm. It didn't demand attention. It didn't ask for approval. Another note followed, then another. No melody. No plan. Just feeling. The piano answered her touch like it had been waiting. At first, people didn't react. They continued their quiet talks. But slowly, conversation slowed. Words faded. Someone turned around. Another person stopped walking. The notes filled the room, gentle and unsure, like a thought spoken out loud for the first time. She played slowly, carefully, as if afraid the music might break if she pushed too hard. Her shoulders relaxed. She forgot about the people. She forgot about the meeting. She played what she felt. A tired hope, a quiet wish, a moment of calm in a room of pressure. The music didn't rise. It didn't fall. It simply existed. The room changed. The air felt warmer. Breathing slowed. Faces soft. Someone closed their eyes without realizing it. No one clapped. No one spoke, they listened. She didn't look up. She didn't want to see their faces. She was afraid one wrong look would stop her. Her fingers moved on their own now. The piano was no longer decoration. It was a voice. When she finally stopped, the silence that followed was different. It was not heavy. It was full. She stood up quickly, almost too quickly, as if caught doing something she shouldn't have. She stepped away from the piano and returned to her place near the wall. No one said anything. The break ended. People returned to their seats. The meeting resumed. But something was different. Questions came, but they sounded calmer. Answers were given without rushing. Smiles appeared where there were none before. Ideas connected. Trust began to form, quietly. She watched from the side. No one looked at her now either. But she didn't feel invisible. She felt lighter. She didn't know why. The meeting continued longer than planned. The room stayed focused. No phones. No restless movements. As the final slide appeared, the company team held their breath. Nothing was decided yet, but something had already shifted. When the visitors stood up to leave, their expressions were unreadable. Polite. Thoughtful. They shook hands, promised to be in touch. The door closed behind them. The room released a breath it had been holding all day. Some people smiled in relief. Others leaned back in their chairs, exhausted. No one mentioned the piano. She picked up her bag quietly. She didn't wait for thanks. She didn't expect any. She walked out of the room the same way she had entered it, unnoticed. Outside, the hallway lights were softer. The noise of the building returned. Phones rang. Doors opened and closed. Live moved on, but somewhere behind her, in that glass room, the air still carried something new. No one could explain it, not yet. And she had no idea that those few unplanned notes were about to change far more than she could imagine. Why did everyone remember the meeting? But not the moment that changed it. The glass room looked the same the next morning. Same long tables. Same cold chairs. Same piano resting in the corner. Nothing looked different, and yet something invisible had stayed behind. The company team arrived earlier than usual. Not because they were asked to. Not because of rules. They just could not stay home. Sleep had been shallow. Dreams had been broken. Everyone kept replaying the meeting in their mind. The questions that felt easier than expected. The answers that came without panic. The calm that appeared without warning. It made no sense. No one spoke about it. No one wanted to sound foolish. But the feeling was there, sitting quietly in each person's chest. Something had helped them. They just didn't know what. The visitors did not respond right away. Hours passed, then more hours. Emails were refreshed again and again. Phones were checked too often. Each sound made hearts jump. By evening, silence filled the building. Nervous thoughts returned. What if the calm had been an illusion? What if the shift had only lived in their minds? Doubt crept back in, slow and heavy. She moved through the hallways, as she always did, carrying folders, refilling water, adjusting lights. Her footsteps were soft against the floor. She blended into the background. She did not think about the piano much. At least, she told herself she didn't. She told herself it had been nothing. Who's the moment just sound floating in the air? Anyone could have done it. But something inside her had changed. She felt lighter, but also unsure. Like she had taken a step without seeing where she would land. Like a door had opened. And she was standing in the doorway, afraid to walk through. Late that afternoon, a message arrived. It was simple short. Careful. Everyone was asked to return to the glass room. People gathered slowly. Some stood. Some sat. No one joked. No one complained. The piano stood there again. Silent. Untouched. The message was read aloud. The visitors wanted to move forward, not slowly. Not later. Now. Now. For a moment, The room froze. No one breathed. Then everything happened at once. Chairs scraped against the floor. Voices rose in disbelief. Someone laughed too loudly. Someone pressed both hands over their face and shook with relief. A few people wiped their eyes quickly and looked away. A deal was forming. Bigger than expected. Stronger than hoped. The company was no longer standing on the edge. Hopes were to save. Dreams were breathing again. Futures were no longer thin lines, ready to snap. The company was saved. In the middle of all this movement, she stood near the wall, watching. She did not step forward. She did not speak. She simply stood there, holding her bag. A small smile touched her face. It was quiet. It was real. No one noticed it. As plans were discussed and calls were made, the room slowly settled. The noise softened into focused energy. That was when someone glanced toward the corner, toward the piano. They frowned slightly, as if seeing it for the first time. "Did we always have that here?" they asked. Another person followed their gaze. They nodded slowly. "Yes, it's been there a while." A pause followed. Not an empty pause, a thinking one. Then someone else spoke. "Someone played it yesterday." The room went still. Conversations stopped mid. Phones were lowered. Eyes moved across the room, searching, trying to remember. The sound returned to them in pieces. Not exact notes, not a clear tune. Just feeling, warmth spreading through the chest, breathing slowing down, focus returning. Eyes turned slowly toward her. She felt it before she saw it. Her chest tightened, her shoulders pulled in slightly, like she wanted to disappear. She shook her head without meaning to. "I just wanted to help," she said softly. Her voice barely crossed the space. No speech followed. No applause. No praise. Just quiet understanding. No one rushed toward her. No one made a scene, but something changed in the way they looked at her. Respect filled the space between them. Not loud. Not dramatic. Real. In the days that followed, the building felt different. People listened more. They interrupted less. They rushed only when needed. The air stayed warm. Late evenings became common, not from fear, but from hope, from purpose. Sometimes, when the work slowed and the lights dimmed, someone would glance toward the piano, and then toward her. "Would you play?" they would ask, gently. She always hesitated, but she sat down. She never played the same thing twice. She didn't try to remember melodies. She didn't plan. She played what the room needed. Sometimes that was hope. Sometimes patience. Sometimes simple peace. The piano was no longer decoration. Neither was she. But the biggest change did not happen in meetings or numbers. It happened inside her. For years, she had believed her place was small, quiet, replaceable. She had learned to stay unnoticed, to not take space, to not disturb. That one moment showed her something else. Helbin did not always need permission. Impact did not always need a title. One evening, after the building emptied, she stayed behind. The lights were low. The city outside glowed through the glass walls. Cars moved like slow streams of light. She sat alone at the piano. The room was silent. She placed her hands on the keys. There was no fear this time. She played slowly, not for a deal, not for a company, not for anyone else. She played for herself, for the part of her that had waited quietly for years, for the voice that had never asked to be heard. The sound filled the empty room, and this time she listened.